Hi people, how are you? Today we're going to be talking about Vampires Never Get Old. The editrixes of this amazing book are Zoraida Córdova Natalie Parker. And I have to be honest and say that usually I don't buy money anthologies because I used to love them. But then I came to that point in which I did love some of the stories and I wanted them to be expanded and turned into books. And then there were stories that I didn't like, and I don't know, I decided that I wouldn't be buying more anthologies. But then this one came out, and I had to. I mean, it talks about representation, all kinds of representation. And you have body types, identity, culture, race, LGBTI, women power, colonialism, imperialism. You have all kinds of representation in this book. So if we want more books like this one, we have to support the ones that are out there, the ones that we can at least. And so yeah, I decided to get this one. I'm going, without further ado, show you this book. And I'm going to try and talk about each story and what kind of representation it has without talking too much about it because the stories are short and I don't want to spoil anything for you. And yeah, we have at the very beginning, we have the contents, which is going to be my base to explain to you what happens in the stories. And then we have this introduction by Zoraida and Natalie, where they talk about the myth of the vampire and how it was constructed in a very Western way. And they want to show new sides or new evolutions to the myth of the vampire. And then the stories are going to be following this construction. We are going to have the title, we are going to have the author, and the ending of every story. We're going to have this little bit written by Zoraida and Natalie, where they talk about what the story is talking about. Yeah, I did explain myself very well here. Okay, they are going to reflect about what the vampire myth always talk about and how the author of the story did change that and, offer new views or new possibilities. And it always ends with a direct question to the reader, which helps the reader be more involved with the story because it makes you think about what you should read. The little part before the question also gives you more perspective, but with the direct question, it's like they're talking directly to you, and that's very nice. And also I think that if you're thinking about making a book club or something like this can open a very nice discussion about the topics and the things that we found into the story. So, I'm going to give you only various hints of what every story is about. The first one, it's Seven Nights for Dying by Tessa Gratton, and talks about how vampires are made. And if you know the old myth says that when a vampire bites you, that's it, you're a vampire. But here we have the character, it's given a choice. She has 7 days to decide if she wants to be turned into a vampire or not. And she has 7 days to think about the things that she will miss if she turns into a vampire and the things that she will gain if she does so. I love that the main character has the choice and the possibility of saying that this is what I want to do with my future. So yeah, I think the most heavy topic in this story is the ability of choosing one's own path. The second story is by Rebecca Roanhorse, and it's The Voice from Blood River. We're going to find our main character, it's a Native American guy, and everyone is speaking on him because he's different and also he's gay. So it's like he lives into this backwater town in which, the big guys who think they're beefy and amazing likes to beat the hell out of him. So when he talks about himself, it's like, okay, I am the odd one out. And it's like I have to be very quiet, very nice, very whatever, so I fit in and no one keeps speaking on me because I'm lonely, I don't have any friends. But then something happens and he sort of invokes this bunch of vampires who are very ruthless, and he is offered the chance to go with them, turn into a vampire, and do vampire things. And the thing is that it involves a sacrifice. And this story, it's going to make you think about what are you willing to sacrifice, and what happens is that the sacrifice, it's not something that you have to offer, but something that you have to take from other people. Will you or won't you do that? Yeah. Then we have Senior Year Sucks by Jolly Murphy, and here we are talking about the myth of the Slayer. And if you have seen shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all the Slayers that we are used to, they're very fit, very slim, very muscular kind of guys, girls, whatever. And here we are going to have a girl who is going to prove that Slayers comes in all shapes and sizes, and the only thing that you need to be a Slayer is the ability of packing a punch. And I love the tension between the vampire and the Slayer here, and I want to know more about these two girls. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then we have The Boy and the Bell by Heidi Heilig. It talks about the myths of burial. If you remember, I think it was in the Victorian age. There were like these cages in cemeteries and these bells in case someone was buried alive. And there's also the grave robbers, people who were practicing, opening bodies and seeing what was inside the human body, had to steal the bodies from the cemeteries. And this book talks about it. And we have a main character who's a trans character. And I love how he defends who he is and his own identity. So yeah, this book is going to be about identity and about how we protect who we are. Because the vampire is going to want to, to tell this guy that he's no guy, that he's a girl. And it's like, okay, because you say so? No, it doesn't work that way. And I love how it all works out and how it ends. And I love that we have this main character that he wants to be a doctor and he wants to help people. And if he has to steal bodies, and if that body is a jerk and a vampire, then we have a guidebook for the newly sighted Desi vampire. And this one is going to be about colonialism and imperialism. We are going to have this, it's very funny how it's shown, this story. I mean, it's like you have this application, the app in the mobile, and with Face ID and everything, and it's writing in a very funny way, and with links that you can click and all of that. And it talks to someone. You can chat now if you want. You can ask for help. And I think it's very original. And it talks about it's an application for those vampires that are turned against their will, usually by a British vampire who is on holidays and thinks that they can do whatever they want with the people in India, that they can turn them against their will and nothing happens. So yeah, it really makes you think and makes you reflect about, as I say, colonialism, imperialism, and what happened between these two countries. Then we have In Kind by Kayla Whaley. I did an in-depth review of this one. I'm going to link it here at the end of the video, because in the Hear Our Voices store we were presented with different choices and we will pick the one that we fit better in. And this one talks about physical disability, chronic illnesses, and I love how it makes you think about against ableism and those people who think that they have the right to decide for the rest of us, and whether or not a life has meaning if you have a disability or you have a chronic illness, and also how this illness defines who you are. It's part of yourself, you know what I mean? And it's a very powerful story. And I remember when I read it the first time, this is the second time I'm reading it, how it impacted me, and it did the same the second time around. It really makes you think. And then we have Vampires Never Say Die, and it's written by our editrixes, Zoraida and Natalie. And it talks about the thrall, the ability that the vampires have of, of using their mind to control you, and whether or not you can escape the thrall of a vampire. And, it's about influence, how vampires can influence the humans, and how that influence can be used for good or for bad. Then we have Bestiary by Lara Ruby. I love that one because we have this vampire who can talk to animals. And I love the power this story packs, because we have a girl here who was abused and was turned against her will. And I love how she got the situation turned upside down and she got the best deal out of it. I love how she's brave and how it talks about the ability of, of trying to survive. About, life can throw shit at you, but you can find a way to survive and to own the situation. And I love what she does in this story. I love that she talks to animals, and I love the kind of character that she turns out to be. She's an amazing one. Then we have Mirrors, Windows, and Selfies by Marco Oshiro. And here we have a 10 who has never seen himself reflected. He comes from a family that says that he is the only one, he's the only vampire born from vampires. So they have him isolated. They don't want him to meet people. It's like they have him closed inside the box. But he wants to reach out. He wants to see the world. He wants to break these chains that have, taken him inside this box all his life. And I love that it talks about freedom and free will and having your own choice, and also about the reflection that we cast, about the way in which we think about ourselves, and the reflection that we really cast outside. And I love all these things. Then we have a story by Dhonielle Clayton, The House of Black Sapphires, I don't know how to pronounce that one. And I love this one, and I think that Dhonielle said that she's going to make a full book about it, and yay! And it talks about the myth of the coffin, about how the vampires need to sleep on a coffin, and some of them with sand from their point of origin. And here we have moving houses. But what I love about this story is that it talks about black people, black enslaved men, and how black women bunch together, love each other, And also I love the figure of I don't remember how she called them, but there is these entities, these guys who can unmate a vampire, and I love that they are like in different groups, and I love the tension that they have between them. And we have a main character that's going to, to find herself very close to one of those unmade vampires, I don't remember the name, kind of people, and I love the story. And then we have the last story, is First Kill by Victor Schwab. And here we have a story where we have a girl who's a vampire and a girl who's a vampire slayer, and how they are pinched together but apart, but what's going to happen now? And yeah, as I say, I love all the stories of this book about, I love how they are written. There are some of them that I really would love to see made into full books, like the one of Dhonielle Clayton and others. But I think Dhonielle is the only one that has said that she's going to turn it into a book. But yeah, as I say, I think this book is amazing because it has lots of representation, and I love how at the ending of every story, the editrixes take the time to compare that story to how the old myths or the more current or the more known myths works, and what the authors of these short stories are trying to show you here. So yeah, I will recommend this book to you like a lot. Thank you for watching. Bye.